Ze lachom o ze brair table rub ze rumine familiar, kamt in cargo chicham. Katuri chim so wiftlia gains powerslin. Uaina glisses kaud ze emberer glow hinging bulbs antiskated, aitir kruslin in drapet tubbles. Somewhere near the bar, left to Rosie and Phil in Waum, Karels bears the sound of people and burden by consequence. Itran calls it where he always did. Zeka urner table, tak slider away from the center of the restaurant, a overtake clear view of the entrance and just enough privacy to think. He preferred it that way. Control over the environment was a habit it picked up over the years one that had served him well in business and, it believed until recently, in marriage. A letter folder lay open before him, its contents neatly aligned. Contracts, projections, margin breakdowns. Tonight was super set to be simple. Vinyl signatures, a handshake, closure. Mark Hollis, which is business partner, was running late and surprising. Mark was brilliant, loyal, and chronically incapable of punctuality. Itran checked his watch. 8 часов 14 минут вечера. His phone vibrated swiftly against the white tablecloth. Late at work. Dying to wait up. Love you. Lena. Which is my word carried the inter-iron automatic maybe forward consciously registered the message. 7 years of marriage he trained the response into muscle memory. He picked her at the office. Hair pulled back in that practical clip show hour when she was focused, glasses sliding down her nose as she leaned over blueprints and renderings. She lowered the Z museum project. Talked about IT like IT was her life. He typed back a quick heart. Edit I miss you. 10 plots the phone face down. Work made. Contracts. Numbers. Tangible things. That was when he heard IT. Zelly. IT sliced through the ambient noise like a blade through a fabric not loud, not exaggerated, but unmistakable. Bright. Unrestrained. A sound he and realized memorized until it reached him from across the room, which a spine straightened instinctively. No, that was impossible. He lifted his head, as moving slowly, deliberately, scanning the restaurant as if searching to quickly might shut through whatever fragile logic still held the word target. To tables Rui, partially herbous courbiwai, a tall ornamental fig tree, sat Lena. Not a woman who looked like her. Not someone similar. Lena. She was emerald dress the one about her for their last anniversary after she stood in the mirror and asked, Alva King, does this make me look like someone exciting? It told her she already was. She'd smile 10, soft and pleased, and kiss him like she believed the IT. Her hair spilled over one shoulder in loose waves, glossy under the candlelight. A strand brushed her collarbone as she lifted again. And she asked alone. The man across from her leaned forward, elbows on the table. Posture loose with the kind of confidence that comes from not yet having been disappointed by life. He was younger, late 20s, maybe. Broad shoulders beneath a tailored jacket, jowling sharp enough to suggest intention. He said something Ethan saw and hear. Lena threw her head back and left the real one. The one she said springly. The one that he'd on Ethan the first time he heard IT, 7 years ago. At a mutual friend's wedding where he had danced barefoot and talked until dawn. Yet Hans' chest tightened. There had to be an explanation. A client? Perhaps. A consultant. But the museum project was institutional, bureaucratic committee, meetings and grant approvals. Not candidly genius at one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. He watched as the men reached across the table, their fingers intertwined. Not tentative. Not exploratory. Familiar. Lena's Tom traced Isla, absent-minded circle against his wrist. The same story she said to do with Ethan when they were falling in love. When words ranked and necessary. When touch filled the spaces language told. The wait arrived at their table carrying 2 glasses of red wine. Chatty on you, puppy. Her favorite. The wine had shirt on their wedding night. Sitting closely get on the floor of their first apartment because the furniture unarrived there yet. Yet Hans bread hitched, which is phone buzzer again. Mark, apologizing previously, which is doubted hit a favor. Could they reschedule? Of course. Family first. Ethan type back, which is fingers moving automatically while, which is ace never left Lena. He should stand up. He should walk over there and ask him an explanation. He should feel anger, rage. They had humor tired of being made a fool. Instead, Cole crept into Uchi's chest. Not a sharp pain. A spreading numbness. Like frostbite, slowly claiming territory. And his fingers tingled. Uchi's heartbeat felt distant, oddly ridicule. The man said something else. Lena linitin, conspirata real. Her scratching the candlelight as she smiled up at him. Then he cupped her voice. Both hands. And kissed her. There was no hesitation. And guilty glance round the room. No urgency or fear of being seen. Lena melted into him with a practiced easy packet not of impulse, but of routine. Of something rehearsed. Repeated. Yet hands gripped tight and round edges of outer glass. The kiss lasted 7 seconds. He couldn't tear him. Not because he wanted to, but because his mind needed something concrete to hold on to while everything else collapsed. 1, 2, 3. Her hands slid into the man's hair. 4, 5, 6, 7. When they separated, her lipstick was still perfect. She tingled her head just so. Ethan swallowed. How long? The question detonated inside him, sending shrapnel through memory after memory. Late nights. Weekend, city visits, phone calls taken in odd rooms. The stress spoken about with such conviction. IT had started in Mark. He could see IT now, like a pattern emerging once you know how to look. Mark, April, May, June. 4 months of life delivered with the same affectionatism should given him that very morning over coffee. We should TRY for a baby next year, she said last week. Forehead on Udi's chest, fingers tracing idle patterns against each skin. After this project wraps up, I want our kids to have the best version of me. The memory curdled, across the restaurant, dessert arrived there. Tiramisu. Show Louis said it was to have you and eaten, suggested it. She fed the man a spoonful, laughing when he caught her wrist and pressed a kiss to her palm. The waiter appeared at Ethan's table. Ready to order, sir? Ethan blinked, refocusing with effort. Just the check for the water, he said, which was steady in a way that surprised him. Something came up to it. As the waiter walked through, Ethan's phone vibrated again. Dr. Hilverson keeps changing with his mind about the East Wing. Going to be here in another hour. Dying to wait up. The lie landed with surgical precision. She was sitting 50 feet away, constructing an alibi in real time. Ethan paid in cash, left a generous tip, and stood slowly, keeping the fig tree between himself and her table. From the same girl, he could see the man's hand resting on Lena's thigh beneath the table. Possessive. Familiar. That was when the full weight hit him, not the airfare, but the deception required to maintain a tea. The daily performance. The contamination of every I love you, every shared bed, every intimate moment split between 2 leaves. As he passed behind the creative screens near their table, her voice drifted to him, clear and unguarded. I should probably hit out soon. Start wearing 5 more minutes, the man replied. I hate sharing you with him. I know, baby, Lena said swiftly, but we have to be careful. Just a little while longer, and 10. Ethan didn't wait to hear the rest. He pushed through the doors into the cold October night, the city lights blaring as each breath fudged the air. The sound of fury wallowed him out, and nothing could ever be the same again. The walk to the parking garage felt unreal, like a scene unfolding behind glass. Ethan moved through the city on autopilot, which his body obeying muscle memory while his mind looked somewhere far behind, still seated in that restaurant, still watching the angle of Lena's head, the confidence of that kiss. Cold air beat at his voice. Traffic hissed past. Somewhere nearby, a street musician played a sla of melody that would have sounded romantic on any other night. 3 blocks. That was all. By the time he reached the garage, his hands were numb not just from the cold. He sat in the driver's seat for a full minute before starting the engine, staring straight ahead as the concrete wall might offer instruction. Drive home. That was what it always done. No matter how late, no matter how tired, tonight would be no different. The house greeted him with warmth. Soft lights glowed from the times Lena had programmed years ago, insisting that darkness should never feel unwelcoming. The faint scent of vanilla lingered in the air. One of your candles burning in the living room. Their wedding photo smiled down from the mantelzonnit, unblown, full of certainty. Everything was exactly as it had been that morning, and nothing belonged there to him anymore. Ethan closed the door behind him quietly, as if she might be asleep upstairs already, as if silence could preserve something. He stood in the void with Iris still in Uri's hand, listening. The house made its usual sounds, the soft tick of the antique clock in the living room, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant rush of pipers settling. Ordinary noises, domestic noises, frost noises, which his phone buzzed. Dear Hilworth finally approved the design. Heading home now. Want me to pick up anything? The casual normality of 18 nearly broke him. She was probably already in her car. Probably had already said goodbye. Maybe with a kiss. Maybe with promises tomorrow, next week, whenever they could steal time again. Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he climbed the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the house itself resisted each ascent, clinging to the version of him that still believed in IT. At the top of the stairs, he paused, hand resting on the banister that he had argued over staying darker or lighter. IT should feel warm, Lena had said, like something you want to hold on to. The bedroom door stood open. Their bedroom. The bed was neatly made. The pillows followed the way Lena liked them. A book lay fastened on her nightstand, a ribbon marking her place. The faint indentation of her perfume lingered in the jasmine, and something deeper had never been able to name. Ethan crossed the room and opened the closet. He reached for the large suitcase without hesitation. The one he had taken to Greece on their 5th anniversary. The one that he held on dresses and linen shirts and souvenirs he had worn would always remain term of who they were to get. He placed IT on the bed and unzipped IT. Packing didn't require thought. Clothes went in first. Work shirts, jeans, the jacket his father had given him years ago. Toiletries followed, dropped into a side pocket with mechanical efficiency. And his watch his fat cares watch paused him for half a second before he slipped it into the case. The laptop, charger, power-powered. Each item felt essential and meaningless all at once. This was Rich's life, reduced to portability. In the bathroom, he opened the medicine cabinet. Her birth control pill sat neatly beside the toothpaste. Current prescription. Consistently set. So much for next year. So much for babies and better versions of themselves. He closed the cabinet and stared at Rich's reflection. The man looking back at him appeared unchanged. Same dark circles beneath Rich's eyes. Same faint crease between Rich's brows from years of concentration. Same ways Lena had kissed that morning before leaving for work, but something fundamental had shifted. It entered the restaurant as a husband in a stable marriage. He stood here now as something else entirely. Downstairs, the study light was still on. Ethan sat at the desk where it paid bills, planned vacations, research colleges he had once talked about for future children. He pulled open the drawer and removed a sheet of their monogrammed stationery. Lena had ordered a thick paper, embossed initials, for song you know this, she said. He had never written any. It pen hovered. This was the moment that would define how he left. Not with shouting. Not with accusations. With clarity. He wrote 3 sentences. I saw you at the Briarwood tonight. The kids looked practiced. I'm staying with Lucas. The same 3 words from Tuesday PLI. He folded the note once and carried it into the kitchen. Set it carefully beside her favorite mug. World's best wife. A joke gift. One should lift at. One it meant more seriously than it admitted. Tuesday. 3 days ago. Say argued over something trivial the living room couch. Whether it was time to replace IT. In frustration, it said, sometimes I wonder if we ever know each other anymore. The words echoed now with brutal clarity. Ethan took one last look round the house. The home had each other together. Painted together. Filled with furniture hunted down during long Saturdays at vintage shops. 7 years of shared life condensed into square footage and memories. He closed the door behind him. The car ride to Lucia's place passed in a blur of streetlights and empty intersections. HAS phone buzzed once. twice. 10 minutes rui. Im exhausted. Chanto to Kerala abvisio. The casual cruelty of IT landed harder than the keys. Out of his brother's house, the porch light flickered on before Ethan reached the steps. Lucas opinions the dauru toward questions, taking in the suitcase, the rigid posture, that how shan the art starry. Guess Raom's ready? He said simply. I poured you a drink to it. Ethan nodded. Silence followed him into the room. The suitcase remained unopened at the foot of the bed. IG's phone vibrated incessantly on the nightstand. Where are you? This isn't funny. I found you a note. We need to talk. Please. Ethan didn't respond. Not yet. He sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped loosely, staring at nothing other of what Donnie and what he hadn't in. The house had left behind would never feel the same again. And neither would he. The spare bedroom smelled faintly of dust and furniture polish, a neutral scent that Lucas had never thought about until tonight. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, the suitcase unopened at IG's feet. IG's phone vibrated again rapid, insistent, but he didn't touch it. He had no interest in engaging with the performance that had been IG's life for months. Minutes passed. 10 hours. Measured only by the depletion of the whiskey in the tumbler Lucas had placed beside him. The fire in the heart cast long, flickering shadows across the walls. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel like a husband or even a man in a relationship. She felt how ruined, stripped down to a core of cold observation. Eventually, the phone rang. The screen glowed with Lena's name. 8 calls. He let IT go to voicemail. The message was come. Ethan, please. I know what you saw looks bad, but here is context. Julian is helping me with something. A surprise for you. I know how it looks, but you have to believe me. You've been targeted 7 years that count for something. Dine through what you've built. Come home. Please. We can't talk like adults. Ethan listened in silence, the words swirling flat against the tidal wave of truth he had witnessed. A surprise. The absurdity was almost insulting. Lucas appeared in the doorway with another beer. She called me 4 times too, he said. Who wants me to convince you to call her back to her? Ethan took a slab breath. I watched her kiss another man tonight at the Briarwood while she think me that she was working late. Lucia's waist tightened. Jesus, Ethan, that kiss isn't new. Not at all. Comfortable. Familiar. Like he'd done it 100 times before. Ethan lifted the whiskey, swallowed it in a single long pull. The warmth barely reached the icy grip of betrayal that had settled in Ichi's chest. He set the glass down carefully. Techt after techt arrived there. Lena asserted between disparate apologies and accusatory deflections. This isn't what you think. You're being dramatic. Nothing happened that would end our marriage. You'll feel stupid when you learn the truth. Ethan didn't respond. The words were white noise, the desperate flailing of someone caught in a trap of their own making. Lucia's voice was quieter now. What do you need? Yet Hans' reply was measured. A good drouwers already texted mine. Ik called her Maratek. Lucas nodded slowly. For what it's worth. I never liked how she talked about your work. Like you weren't ambitious enough to. Yet Hans A snapped to him. What? Lucas shrugged. Mom's birthday last year. You were in the kitchen. Lena told Aunt Carol that you were comfortable with mediocrity. That she was tired of being the only one with dreams. I figured it was just one talking to. Now it all made sense. Lena hadn't simply cheated. She'd been contemptuous of him for months, maybe longer. The effervescent mistake was an escape. From Ethan, from the lie they had built, from the ordinary, predictable reality she had apparently outgrown. Not a tech driver there, this time from an unknown bearer. This is Julian. Lena is beside herself. Whatever you think happened, you're wrong. She loves you. Don't destroy your marriage over jealousy and insecurity. Ethan read IT to eyes, then shot IT to Lucas. The balls on this guy, Lucas muttered under as bread. But then Ethan paused. Julian didn't sound defensive, not apologetic, not fearful. He sounded protective, proprietary. like he was guarding something he believed belonged to him. He typed a single question. How long? 3 dates appeared and vanished. 10 appeared. Cuts between you and your wife. Yet Hans' fingers hovered. Not reply. Since April. 4 months. Nearly half a year. Shared intimacy split between 2 men. The lie he thought he had was a carefully constructed lie, meticulously divided. The night stretched onward. Messages, calls, apologies, lies they all piled on top of one another. Ethan barely noticed the time passing. Lucas poured another whiskey, sat down beside him. 3 weeks from now, Ethan finally mattered. He'd be sitting across from her in a conference room at Morrison & Associates. Lawyers, mediators, witnesses, all of it. Lucas leaned back, letting him continue, and he asked her one question. One simple question, yet Hans' jaw tightened. Did you love him? Lucas said nothing. He didn't need to. Ethan replayed every detail from that night at the restaurant. The casual intimacy, the easy, the practice kiss. The subtle gestures that had always been private between them now performed publicly for another man. For continuities, the way she engirdled her head, the confident precision of a lie crafted in real time. Everything was a performance. And he had been an unwitting audience. The phone buzzed again. Lena, pleading, rationalizing, explaining. But Ethan felt none of it. All the bridges had burned months ago. Her words couldn't reach him anymore. They had no power. He finished the whiskey. Lucas got up and poured another for himself, keeping Cuja's presence quiet and steady. No advice, no judgment, just a broadcast understanding. The aftermath of truth was not loud, not dramatic, not cinematic. It was cold, slow, crushing, and it was in the square that Ethan finally began to process the magnitude of what he had lost and what he would never reclaim. He pulled the suitcase closer, staring at the empty space where the woman who had been his word once lived there, and realized this was the first night in months, maybe years, that he could breathe without waiting for a lie to collapse on him. He was alone, and, for the first time, he was free. The conference room at Morrison & Associates was cold in a way the city streets had not been. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, harsh and unforgiving. The long, polished table reflected every anxious movement, every flick of a hint, every twitch of a nail. Ethan Cole sat rigid, shoulders squared, hands resting on Udi's lap. Across from him, Lena Cole looked smaller than he remembered. Her usual polished plaits bureau, haunted exhaustion. Her hair, once meticulously styled, now fell in with that front a vase drawn tight with tension and regret, or perhaps something else, something so after disparity. 2 lawyers flanked each of them. Neutral, professional, their presence necessary to maintain decorum, like sequence at a duel. Ethan ignored them. He didn't need witnesses to the truth. Ethan, we don't have to do this, Lena said quietly, her voice breaking through the sterile air of the room. We could TRY counseling. We're through it, yet Hans Gazi didn't waver. He studied her as if seeing her for the first time in 7 years. The curve of her jaw, the set of her shoulders, the howling beneath her eyes was a strange in a skin he had once known intimately. Did you love him? AJ's voice was calm, surgical, carrying the weight of someone who had already watched the act and catalogued every detail. Lena flinched, blinked. The question hung in the air like smoke, curling around the fluorescent lights, impossible to ignore. I don't know, she whispered finally. Maybe. It felt like possibility, like who I could be instead of who I am to. Yet Hans' jaw tightened. And who are you? I'm someone who made a terrible mistake, she said, her eyes meeting each's in fleeting disparity on. I never meant to hurt you, but you did. Ethan said swiftly, the words mere but devastating in their precision. For 5 months, every I love you, you said, every dinner, every night we shared a bed, you chose to share me. Every single day. You were confused, scared. The affair wasn't about me. It was about the life you decided wasn't enough. The marriage you found too ordinary. The husband you were embarrassed to admit you'd settled for. Hor lauer kleert uiche is trot. Perhaps we should focus on this division. Iteren ignoreert him. He had no interest in mediators, spreadsheets, or neutral opinions. He needed acknowledgement. About your conversation at Montberdy last year, he continued, about mediocrity and dreams. Colored drink from your voice. You were drunk. You didn't mean IT. Maybe not consciously. But you meant IT. And that's fine. People grow apart. But you should have the courage to live instead of. He judged vaguely, encompassing the charity, the deception, the casual cruelty of it all. Instead of this, Lena's lips pressed together, a silent acknowledgement, and yet she said nothing. So it had said, Ethan said, was steady body there with something sharper. 7 years, and you won't even fight for us. You stopped. You just forgot to tell me the war was over. A ghost of old affection flickered behind Edith's eyes. The muscle memory of loving her, of building a life together, surfaced for a moment cruelly. But love, he realized, required trust. And trust, one shattered thoroughly, could not be reconstructed from the same pieces. I did fight, he said, Uiche's voice obtaining, carrying the weight of Uiche's grief. Every day, I showed up. I was faithful. I worked to build a life with you. Every compromise, every sacrifice, I fought for us. And you stopped fighting. You just forgot to tell me to. The lawyers huddled briefly, whispering, negotiating numbers and pips while yet Hans Gazi never wavered from Lena. Her face, pale under the unforgiving light, betrayed the layers of shame, fear, and, perhaps, lingering defiance. Hours passed in a blur of signatures, account divisions, and legal formalities. The house, the savings, the detritus of 7 years of shared life, all reduced to figures, spreadsheets, and Inca. Ethan didn't want to see the house, the luxury, the physical symbols of a life built on lies. As they stood to leave, Lena reached out and caught Uji's arm. Ethan, she whispered, barely audible over the shovel of papers and the tap of heels. Please, tell me, did you ever really love me? He looked at her, the woman who had been his word, the version he thought he could trust, and the one who had proven herself a stranger. I loved who I thought you were, he said finally. The version that existed before I saw who you actually are. That woman was worth everything. But she was never real, was she? He turned away, stepping into the hallway, leaving the fluorescent-lit room behind. The paper signed. The marriage officially dissolving in 60 days. Lena's hand fell from Uchi's arm. He heard her inhale sharply, but he didn't turn back. Outside, the outer man hit him like a slap, bracing and cold. Uchi's phone remained silent. Lena had stopped cowling, stopped texting, stopped trying to rewrite history into something more palatable. Lucas was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against Uchi's truck. How did it go? He asked. It's Donnie, Ethan replied, Uchi's voice flayed but steady. You okay? Ethan considered the question carefully. He wasn't okay. Not yet. Only before a long time. But he was free. Free from the lies, the gaslighting, the supposition of loving someone who had already left months ago. I will be, he said, finally. They drove in silence, the city lights streaming past, leaving behind the office, the lawyers, and the ghost of a lie that had never been truly theirs. A final was from Uchi's phone. A message from Lena. I'm sorry for everything. I hope someday you can forgive me. He read IT, then deleted IT. Some wounds didn't need closure. Some endings were better left silent. The restraint, the practiced intimacy, the kissity was all a different life. Now, Ethan carried only what truly belonged to him: truth, clarity, and the courage to live. In the cold precision of Uchi's departure, he had set everything we toward uttering or not word. Some goodbyes required no sentences, only the act of living. The morning air was crisp, tinged with the faint smell of rain asphalt, carrying the quiet promise of a new beginning. Ethan stood on the car-powered side Uchi's brought to Lucha's house, the city waking around him. Cars passed lazily on the boulevard, streetlights fading as the sun began its climb. Uchi's suitcase sat in the back of the truck, already packed, already having not with belongings, but with weight of everything he had shed. Yet Hans hands rested lightly on the steering wheel. The engine who had beneath him, steady and reliable. The familiar noises of the truck were counting after weeks of chase and lies. The divorce had been finalized. Papers signed. Splits of visits, savings, and memories logged the internet, still legal language. The formality of it unheard as much as he expected. Perhaps it was the clarity that finally provided relief, the knowledge that the lie built on deceit had an artificial end. He glanced at the rearview mirror. No reflection of Lena. No reminders of the marriage that had been a careful illusion for so long. For 7 years, they had built a shared history. 7 years. And yet, what they had shared had already begun to crumble quietly in the hidden corners of restaurants, under the guise of late nights at work, through text messages masking deceit. He remembered the keys which he had pressed against during the practiced issue of repetition, her hand tracing familiar patterns, her lips still teething precision. She could still feel the stink of betrayal, sharp and clean, like a surgical cut. But even as the memory lingered, it no longer held him captive. He had lived through the aftermath, through the cold cataloging of lies and omissions, and now he could finally breathe. Lucia struck the door closed behind him. "You ready?" Lucas asked, which his voice come, the quiet support of a brother who had seen enough to understand that sometimes silence was the most powerful weakness. "I am," Ethan said, voice even, though the nodding edges just begun to loosen. "I will be ready for the next part. Just not yet. Not until we let this sit through." The streets were waking. People walking their dogs, drivers tracing patterns through the neighborhood, the first hints of morning chitter spilling from cups happening for the day. The work continued, indifferent to the collapse of a marriage, to the dissolution of love, to the quiet fury of a man who had been betrayed. Ethan drove slowly, letting the engine and the road set the pace, letting the city absorb him before he made any more decisions. He passed familiar landmarks, the corner where he and Lena had once held hands, the little bookstore where she had insisted on buying him a novel every birthday. He didn't flinch. The memories were sharp, but they no longer held sway over him. They were artifacts of a life he had outgrown before even leaving Katie, which is phone buzzed once more. A message from Lena. "I hope someday you can forgive me." He read it, then deleted it without hesitation. Forgiveness wasn't necessary. Closure wasn't required. She had provided neither, and he had no need for either. Some endings were better left silent. The truth was the only thing he needed, the brutal, crystalline clarity that he drove in the form of her laughter across the restaurant, the casual intimacy, the practice keys, the lies sent in real time. That was the history he carried. Everything else, the dinners, the vacations, the shared jokes had been shadowed by duplicity. And yet, in acknowledging that truth, he had found a freedom he hadn't realized he craved there. The suitcase in the back of the truck wasn't just clothing or personal effects. It was a symbol of reclamation, of autonomy. Every folded shirt, every book, every carefully packed essential was a deliberate act of taking back Eddie's life. The weight was real, but it grounded him. It reminded him that he was moving forward, not backward. By mid-morning, Ethan reached a quiet outlook on the outskirts of the city. He parked, stepping out into the chill air. The wind tore out with his hair, carrying a distant scent of pine and concrete. The sun was high now, casting long, warm shafts of light across the landscape. For a moment, he just stood there, breathing, listening, feeling. The silence was profound. It wasn't the absence of sound, it was the absence of deceit, manipulation, and betrayal. It was the stillness that came after a storm, when everything has been washed clean and the air feels raw but alive. Ethan thought of Lena one last time, not with anger, not with longing, but with detached resignation. The woman he had loved there, the one who had deceived him, existed in a world separate from his own now, and that was enough. He didn't need her to understand. He didn't need apologies. He didn't need her to be anything other than herself. He turned back to the truck, climbing in and starting the engine. The rotor head was open, the city fading behind him. There were no plans, no destinations locked in place. On is acquired promise of autonomy and the knowledge that he had survived his destruction or what he had thought was unbreakable. For the first time in months, he felt whole. Not healed, not unscared, but free. Free from lies, free from betrayal, free from the erosion of trust and love. Every mile he drove, the weight of the past lightened slightly. The sound of the engine became a heartbeat, steady and sure. It didn't know where he would go next. He didn't know who he would become. But he knew one thing. He had the courage to live. And sometimes, living was enough. Some goodbyes didn't require words. Some departures didn't demand explanation. They only demanded the courage to step away from the lies that had once been permanent and embrace the uncertainty of what came after. Ethan drove on, the sun rising fully now, painting the world in shades of gold and possibility. He didn't look back. The road ahead was ages long, open and empty, waiting for the first step of the life he would build for himself. And for the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine a young feet, unburdened and entirely each his own.